Hello, welcome to Alexa Forgets Books. My name's kind of Alexa, don't worry about it. And I forget books sometimes. I wanted to start this channel just so, I have some friends that are interested in books, and some friends that don't really care to read, but sometimes they like to hear me talk. I don't know why, but love them for that. Couple things. We're gonna ignore that my hair is frizzy. I live in a very humid place, and I'm Hispanic, and not a good mix, might I say. Could I go and get my wax stick from God knows wherever I have it and fix this? I could. That would involve finding it, and I don't quite remember where I put it. And it took me a fucking year and a half to set this up anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and go with this. I hope the audio quality is okay. I got this mic for like $7 on Amazon. It's cute. I like it. Let me know if it sounds okay. Okay, so today I want to talk about this book, Divine Rivals. I'm pretty sure Divine Rivals is YA. I don't have a problem with YA personally. I actually, as of October of 2023, I got back into reading after many years of not reading, and I read a lot when I was in like middle school. And so I read a lot of YA then, and it was interesting to see how my tastes have like changed as I've gotten older. There were instances in the book, like, also spoilers. Oh my god, heavy spoilers. I will be spoiling this book. I haven't read the second one. I have it downstairs. I wanted to film this video before I read the second one because I feel like it would be more genuine. I will be either filming a second video to do the second book, or I will be mashing up these two videos and doing like hey, look at me in a couple days or something like that. Anyway, heavy spoilers for Divine Rivals and potentially Ruthless Vows. Your warning is now. There are some instances in the book where it's very much like you can tell it's YA. Again, not necessarily a bad thing. I was slightly cringing throughout the book whenever, because it was made clear from the beginning that it was like, Iris, our main character, or one of our two main characters. She didn't know Roman, which is our second main character, our love interest. She didn't know his middle name. She just knew that it started with C, and she'd make up like inner dialogue, kind of just like, oh, Roman can tinker his kit, and that kind of thing, like, oh, Roman conceited kit, because that's his name, Roman C. Kit. I didn't care for that recurring joke. It was, again, it just, like, for me, it read very YA in that moment. But that's nitpicking. To be like completely clear, that is me nitpicking. Like, that's not me saying like trash book because of that. No, not at all. I really did enjoy this book. I think I noted specifically chapter 12. I really, really enjoyed chapter 12. They did things in this book that I didn't really expect. As far as like, because it is YA, I wasn't sure how dark it was going to get. Also, one of the first few pages is the dedication in this book, and it's dedicated to another author. Hang on, oh my god, 1 second. I'm so underprepared. This is so embarrassing. It's so unprofessional. Okay, let's see. Jesus. There we go. It's dedicated to Isabel Ibanez. I hope I'm pronouncing that okay. Let's see. She said thank you to Isabel for encouraging her to add Roman's POV, which I do feel like was a good choice. However, another thing to note about me is I am a sucker for a good twist, a good cliffhanger, a good like drama. I love drama. Not in my personal life, of course, but I love reading and watching drama. It's very entertaining. Well, for me personally, I think personally, I would have liked if Roman's POV wasn't added until after he came to Avalon Bluff, because it was a bit of like a plot twist, that the reader could gather whatever they wanted, they could assume, but for some people they wouldn't see that coming, and I feel like that would have been like, oh my god, it was him. Fucking Iris, oh my god. I love her, but like, figure it out quicker, girl. It's fine, it is, but you have other shit on your mind. You have life going on and shit, but like, get it together. Like, read between the lines. Aren't you a journalist? Like you'd think that you would be intuitive to some degree, but I digress. So I really feel like the book maybe would have benefited from adding Roman's POV a little bit later into the book and not having it like towards the beginning. I feel like it would have acted like a bit of a drama, a bit of like plot twist. I say that, but it was nice to see like his inner turmoil through like the beginning sections of the book. It was cute. It was nice. I did enjoy it. But it was very much not equal in dividing the book between Roman and Iris's POVs, which is fine. But I feel like if you were to do that, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm trying to get at, but honestly, I feel like maybe adding it a little bit later into the book would have been nicer for me. I personally would have liked that. Again, this is not like, I don't know if you would have enjoyed that. I do encourage, if you're interested, please read this book. I like it. I liked it a lot. I thought it was really cute. But yes, if you're interested, please read this book. I do think that it is worth the read. It is set, oh my god, I'm all over the place. It is set in like a like typewriters, like cigarettes, like I want to say 1920s-esque, maybe 30s or 40s, maybe 40s, 30s or 40s, I think is maybe the vibe. Like typewriters, cigarettes, like, old-timey shit, with magic. There is magic in the world. It's a world where there are gods. Most of them are dead. And the others, the 5 that survived, have been sleeping for 100 years until one of them woke up and was real pissed that he was done dirty by one of the other gods, and he started a war. And we start with the book where our main character, Iris Winnow, is seeing off her brother to war to go fight for Enva, which is one of the gods at war. The other one is, I want to say Dacre. I always switched when I was reading in my head, like how to pronounce it. I'm gonna go Dacre or Dacre. I might switch in this video too. He is Dacre is an underling, which you could assume it's like, it's like heaven and hell, but not actually heaven and hell. But the underlings, those types of gods and creatures that dwell, are underneath, like, towards like the center of the earth. Like the molten core, I think, is something that's referred to a few times in this book. That is where the underling gods reside. And then there are the skywards, I believe, skywards, which are, up above. That's what you got. Dacre is... there's really, not a lot of room for morally, ambiguous with this war. I feel like, personally, I don't really know how a reader could be, pro Dacre, their side of the war. But there you have it. He was done dirty by Enva, and woke up after 100 years of sleeping and got pissed and started a war to draw Enva to him. That was the premise. Iris Winnow's brother, Forrest Winnow, got volunteered to fight for Enva. Enva has musical gifts where she plays really pretty music, and it would reach some people into different cities and try and recruit them for the war to fight for her. And that is what happened with Iris's brother, Forrest. This book, the first part of this book takes place in a city called Oath, which was strange to get used to. That's not really what I would consider to be a normal city name, so I was like, Oath? Oath. She works at a publishing, newspaper. She works for a newspaper called the Oath Gazette, and she is currently fighting for columnist with our other main character, Roman C. Kitt. He was going to just be given the position until Iris submitted her paper or something like that. I have very few notes that I wrote down. I don't like to pause when I'm reading to write down notes, so I'm sorry if it's all over the place. I'm sorry if I mixed up details. It's been a couple days since I finished the book. I just haven't had the time to properly film this, but here we are. So they're fighting for the position. They've been at it for a couple months, and it's kind of reaching a fever pitch. After our prologue, we enter Iris running late for work, broken heel, mess. So sad. And she's trying to get one of the leads on the bulletin board, I'm assuming is what it would be. And Roman's standing there all smug when she gets there I'm waiting for you to show up so you can see me snag the last story. Screw you. And she's pissed about it. as one would be. So we don't really get a clue into Iris's why she was running so ragged and running late for work until a couple chapters in, I believe. Iris's mother, Aster, is an alcoholic, unfortunately. She turned to alcohol when her son Forrest went off to war. It's been 6 or 7 months since he left. And neither of them are handling it very well, unfortunately. Aster more so. She turned to drinking, and just very unfortunate situation for Iris. She does struggle with the fact that her mom is not who she used to be, not who she grew up with, and she struggles with who she remembers her mom to be and who she currently is, and wants better for her, as I'm sure a lot of people would in that situation. So it was very sad to read, and very unfortunate. I think it was interesting when the author, Rebecca Ross, decided to have a scene in the book where Iris's mom had cooked her dinner, and it was all nice, and just very much it reminded Iris of how things used to be before Forrest left, and she was saying I want to try and do this more often, and Iris was like, oh my gosh, she's gonna stop drinking. And then she realized that she was currently drunk when that was happening. which was like heartbreaking to read. And I think it lends towards another thing in this book that I really enjoyed when it came to this dynamic in particular was that there were so many complex emotions when it came to Iris and her mom. I do enjoy when books tend to lean into complex emotions instead of writing things very like black and white. It was refreshing in a sense to read that. I digress. So, we find out that Iris's mom is an alcoholic since her son left for the war. And Iris had to drop out of school. She couldn't finish her last year because she needed to work and pay bills because her mom got fired from her job at a diner due to her drinking. And they currently are not able to pay for electricity, so everything is by candlelight. And it's very sad. It's very depressing. This book at times is very depressing. Be warned. So we kind of move throughout the first couple chapters with just the rivalry between Iris and Roman, and how Iris is continuously running late, or to an outsider's perspective, it looks like she's slacking, but she's dealing with shit. And it's been 6 or 7 months again since her brother left, and she hasn't heard from her brother, and he promised that he would write. And so she got really worried, and she pulled out her grandmother's typewriter, and her grandmother always told her, just send letters through the wardrobe, under the wardrobe whenever you just need your letters to find a home. That kind of thing. It doesn't make sense until a little bit later in the book, don't worry. So she did, about 3 months after he left, I believe, and she just kept sending letter after letter after letter, and they would disappear, and she didn't know where they would go. Maybe they found Forrest, but he wasn't writing back. And so it went on for about 3 months of this, of her just writing letters and sending them through the wardrobe, and who knows where they went. Another thing I do want to know, is it nitpicky? I don't know. The first bit of this book, where the setup is, there are instances where they will flash back to a certain point between the 6-month time skip from the prologue, or even before that. And it was really confusing to read in the moment. Maybe it was just me, but I was having moments where I was like, hold up, what? I had to read that scene where she was sending letters through the wardrobe 3 times before I understood that it wasn't present day. It was months ago that this was happening, that this happened. Very confusing to read. I wish there was a clearer transition from present to past, and we get moments in the book at the beginning where there's just flashbacks that aren't super clear that they're flashbacks. But again, maybe that's just me. Anyway, also, another thing, the expository dialogue. Not a fan. I am never a fan of expository dialogue. I get that you need it for setup. I just feel like it could have been done a little better. And it is only in the beginning of the book, thankfully, but God, they really, with the prologue, Forrest said something about because they share a closet, and it's you can have my half of the closet, and she was like, I like to keep up with all the latest fashion trends, which was a joke, but it also, at the moment, I didn't know it was a joke, so it felt expository, and I was like, that's not for me. So is that really an example? No, technically, but yes, also, you be the judge. I don't remember where the fuck I was. Okay, so we go through a couple chapters of oh, I remember where I was. Holy shit. So, Iris is sending these letters through the wardrobe. She has been for a couple months, and she finally gets a reply that says, this is not Forrest. I am not Forrest. Forrest is not me. Obviously, it didn't say all those things. It said one of those things, or a mixture of the three. Real short and sweet sentence. And she was like, thinking about it for a while. She's like, what the fuck? And she eventually wrote back and she said, okay, then I want my letters back, not Forrest. And they were like, no, I can't. And we find out that it's actually Roman that she's writing to. And because she was so detailed in her first letters to who she thought was Forrest, Roman was able to gather that this was Iris pretty quickly because, you know, she mentioned working at the Gazette and, like, vying for columnist. So he knew that this was Iris, and he didn't say anything. He didn't want to say anything. He was like, you know what, this is an opportunity for me to look at her writing. Okay, Roman. Sure. Anyway. So Roman starts writing back to her anonymously for a while. And Iris is still like, oh, mystery person. And we kind of fast forward a little bit to, I don't know how I'm going to edit this, but indeed, Aster dies. She gets struck by a tram. Yeah, struck by a tram at like 10:45 p.m. Crazy. Wild. I wasn't expecting that. And Iris doesn't want to tell anyone at work. She doesn't want the pity. That is if there's one thing about our girl Iris, she doesn't want to be pitied ever. So she doesn't tell anyone, but she does write to our dear old our anonymous friend Roman. And she says, I lost someone really close to me and I don't know how to cope with it. Chapter 12. Phenomenal. And, you know, he, in turn, shares his story about how his little sister died. And it was really sad. And it was a really nice bonding moment, you could tell, for the characters. And she goes into work the next day. She did leave early, just, like, immediately left. And, oh, she doesn't go into work next. Okay, sorry. Let me amend that. She left immediately from work when one of the secretary for the head editor was like, hey, they want you to put this in the paper to because the sheriff's station needs you to identify, or needs like someone to identify this body, so can you print this, can you type this out, and like it'll go into the next cycle of the newspaper. And she could just tell. She was like, I have a gut feeling this is my mom. And she was like, bolted, just left work and went to go identify the body. It was indeed her mom. She didn't go back to work that day. And the next day comes and she had overslept in her mom's bed. And she woke up kind of just very confused. And then it all hit her again, which was really sad. And she hears knocking on the door, and it turns out it's Roman with her trench coat, which is actually Forrest's trench coat that he gave her before he left. Very sweet, very touching. Obviously, you can tell that he has feelings for Iris at this point. Like, the reader knows. Iris doesn't, obviously, and maybe Roman doesn't either. But he came personally and was like, you forgot this. But you could tell he just wanted to check on her. And he was like, we're all worried. You didn't show up. You left early yesterday. And she was just like, I'm really sick. But she looked like a mess. She was like half dressed. And it was like, he thought that she had like someone in the bedroom. I'm glad that wasn't made into like the classic miscommunication trope. That would have been aggravating. No, it's not. It was pretty quickly, like, brushed away. She was like, I'm sick. And he was like, oh, well, whatever you need. I am here for you. And she was like, thanks, bye. And shut the door. And she ended up going to work the next day. Again, like, she hasn't told anyone. But she's typing out the obituaries. And she decides to type out Aster's. And says some really cute words. It's touching, really sad. And it turns out Roman, you can infer that he reads everything that she writes because she's the competition. Yeah, okay. And they get pulled into the editor-in-chief's office, Zeb Autry, I think. And he's like, look, Iris, I've given you so many chances. This position was initially going to go to Roman, but you've been slacking. Roman, congratulations, here you go. And Roman is like shaking with like anger or frustration or something like that, and he's like, give us one more chance. Her mom just died, and she didn't tell anyone, and that's why she left. And he was like, the editor was like, well, I didn't know that, did I? Shut the fuck up. So fucking rude. But like, okay, I don't. Rude still, in my opinion. Whatever. Iris has also mentioned that like she doesn't read anything that Roman writes. She read one thing and then she was like, I can't. It's too good. It's gonna shake me up. And so she was like, while I haven't read anything of his, I think he's been reading everything of mine, which is more true than you know, girl. We kind of move on, and she realizes there's nothing keeping her an oath anymore. She wants to go find her brother, her last living family member. So she goes and signs up, like she quits her job, just immediately walks, actually in that same meeting, I believe. And she's like, I'm going to go sign up to be a war correspondent for the rival newspaper called the Incretin Tribune? Yes, Incretin Tribune. Cute name, by the way. She goes, she packs up her shit, she writes a letter to her anonymous pen pal, if you will, and is like, I'm leaving Oath. Bye-bye. And she gets a letter back, and it says, where are you going? Please don't go, or something along those lines. And she didn't reply. And she got another letter through the wardrobe, and she decided to just leave it sitting on the floor. She was like, I know it might change my mind, so I just need to go. So she got her typewriter, she got her little valise. I think that's how you say that. Valise? Bag. Duffel bag, I'm assuming. She got her little valise, and dipped. She left to go sign up, and immediately we get the editor of the Incretin Tribune, and she's like, okay, you're off the next train in 30 minutes. Bye-bye. Here's your jumpsuit. It says correspondent. Be sure to always keep it on, just in case. Here's 2 for whenever you do laundry. She's like, all right. She's on the train. Train stops for some reason after a while. I think also it's mentioned a lot that the place that they're going is 600 kilometers from Oath. I did look up how many miles that was, and I promptly forgot. So there we go. Train stops in the middle of the day for some reason, and it's like, okay, we're gonna keep moving at some point, don't worry about it. And she notices that there was only one person who was bold enough to ask why the train had stopped. And before Iris could go up and find that person, she was gone. Turns out, it's another war correspondent for the Incretin Tribune. This is where we get our friend, Addie. Thea Atwood, aka Addie to Friends. She's cute, love her, adorable, no notes. She's bold, she's strong, but she's nice, and it's refreshing. It's cute. We end up going to the town of Avalon Bluff, which is very close to the war front. Another thing to note, Oath has kind of been acting like the war isn't going on. Like, no, it'll be over, like we're gonna pretend. Like, ignorance is bliss type of thing. But no, the war is coming. And it is Iris's mission to get people to know that the war is coming. Know that, like, you need to be aware. It was speculated that the Chancellor, I guess because there are chancellors, I don't know, the Chancellor of Oath has been, like, has banned, like, talk of the war or something like that. And the publisher, the editor-in-chief of the Inquisition Tribune is hellbent on breaking his, like, just bending those rules as much as she can. They arrive in Avalon Bluff, and they are instructed to go to this this bed and breakfast. And they go, it's dead quiet, and it's like in the middle of the night. And finally someone's like, who is it? And they're like, hey, we're war correspondents. We were told to be here. Helena sent us. And she's like, you could tell she's like, fucking Helena. Okay, yeah, come in. Then we meet Marisol Torres. I love the Hispanic representation. Very cute. She's really sweet. I like her right off the bat. It's really nice. Love. And another small gripe, though. They always refer to the bed and breakfast, like Marisol's like home and also bed and breakfast, as the B and B, like B, letter B, and letter B. It kind of takes me out of it a little bit personally. I wish they would have given, I wish the author would have given it like a name, like, if she called it like I don't know, just something other than B&B. I wish there was like a name for it instead of like, oh, I'm going to the B&B. Like, I don't know. It takes me out of it. I don't care for it. It doesn't feel like of the time period that I cultivated in my mind, if that makes sense. So they're welcomed in. She feeds them, and she's like, okay, I gotta let you know about something. They're sirens, okay? If they're from another town, and if you hear a siren go all throughout the night, means the hounds are coming. And you have like 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes to close all the windows, shut off all the lights, and come to my bedroom. And like, that's just how it is. And if you hear a siren all throughout the day, just, you have like 3 minutes, 2 minutes before the Ethrals come, the winged creatures. And you gotta, again, like, stand perfectly still, because if they see any movement, they're dropping bombs. And if you're outside when this happens, you gotta do the unthinkable and lay down and stay the fuck still. And if you hear an intermittent siren throughout the day or night or whatever, that means we gotta go. Because they can't hold the front anymore, and they're receding, and we gotta evacuate. And those are the sirens. And these creatures, the hounds and the Ethrals, are sent by Dacre's forces. Evil. There is no, I guess for the people of Oath, like, you can't really have much of an opinion when you don't really know all the facts, because talking about the war, or it being published and reported on, is banned. Also, music is, because of Enva, and that's how she recruits people. So I can't really blame the citizens of Oath for some people yeah, Dacre, woo! But the more that Iris and Roman get an insight into what it's like, it's very much bad. Dacre's bad. Enva's good. And it's just easier to have good and bad in a war, I guess. But it would have been nice to have some morally gray. I digress. So, they're clued in on the sirens. Iris pulls out her typewriter at some point, and she's like, hey, I'm not an Oath anymore. I'm a war correspondent. That's that. And we get a reply, and there's just, we kind of go throughout, the next couple of chapters is just, Iris kind of experiencing Avalon Bluff, helping out at the infirmary where the injured are, because there are trucks that come and bring injured people, and then leave and pick up supplies, that kind of thing. After a little bit, we get someone, one of the captains or something like that, who's like, okay, here's a bunch of injured. And they're like, we can't fix these people. And he's like, I know. Let them die with dignity, okay? Like, all I ask is that you give them a proper, like, send-off. Okay? Like, I know they're gonna die. They know they're gonna die, probably. Just let them go. And they're like, okay, fine. So we get a couple chapters of Iris kind of experiencing the infirmary and trying to get people to talk about their stories from the front, that kind of thing. And she quickly notices that not a lot of people want to talk about it, which is understandable, and she thankfully understands that. But she decides to write out a bunch of letters of these soldiers, like, because they all want to talk to someone, you know, like they just want to let their loved ones know things. They want to talk to them. So she types up, or like writes out a bunch of letters, like on her notepad for these people's family members. She goes and types them all out and sends them to Roman and says, hey, can you send these out? I'll pay you back for the postage. These are just like from the like injured soldiers, you know. And he's like, I got it. Don't worry about the postage. No problem. And she's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm paraphrasing. I'm doing a lot of this from memory. I did write a few notes, again, very few. Because I don't like to stop whenever I'm reading. It takes me out of it. Anyway. Oh, shit. My bad. I'm trying to reposition. I'm sorry if I've been off center. It's just hard to figure it out. Please deal with it. I'm so sorry. So we eventually, it's just kind of like, I wouldn't say it's filler, but it's a lot of, you know, it's very cozy. I will say I had a hard time grasping like the setting in Oath. Like as soon as, you know, at one point I was like, okay, I have like the setting pictured in my head. And then they'd say something like, oh, there's older houses with like thatched roofs. And I'm like, what the fuck? Okay. So it was a little harder to grasp, but Avalon Bluff, I have a very clear image of it in my head, as well as Marisol's B&B. It's, I don't know, it's like, it makes me like really happy to think about. It just seems like really warm and cozy, and it's just like, oh, not like what happens later, but the atmosphere, I guess, of her B&B. And yeah, just like some setup, some, you know, that kind of thing. And then we also get Roman's POV. I haven't really mentioned his POVs because they haven't really been super important. We get him basically breaking off this arranged marriage engagement to this random scientist's daughter, who's also a scientist. And he's like, I don't want to marry you. And she's like, I don't either, but we're just gonna do it. Like, until we have to create children, we'll just be in separate beds, and then we can take our own lovers and whatever. That's not enough for him, because he realizes he has feelings for Iris, and he's like, I don't want this to be my life. Like, my father punishes me all the time for what happened with my sister. I'm not going to explain that. Feel free to go read it yourself. It's just not something I'm going to go into detail with. And so he's like, you know what? Fuck that. War's coming. I love her. I'm going to quit being a columnist. I'm going to go be a war correspondent and go and be with her and tell her who I am. And at some point he ends up giving her through the letters, because she's like, I don't know your name. I want something to call you by. And he's like, Carver. Again, it's like really obvious at that point. But again, it's obvious to us because we've had his POV. This is when I would have preferred his POV to start at that point, just kind of to have the reader put that together of like, C, Carver, the middle initial that she never knew what it was, like what it stood for. So he goes, and she, at one point during her stay in Avalon Bluff, there's a siren going off during the day. It means the Ethrals are coming. Get down, stay still. And she sees, when she's like busy closing the windows, she sees someone walking through the fucking field. And she's like, this person's gonna get us all killed. They're gonna get us bombed. And so She sprints out there and oh yeah, Addie has binoculars, and she goes and gets them and realizes it's Roman C. Kit. Shock. And she runs out there and she like launches herself on top of him, or him on top of her. I think I forget. One of them's on top of the other on the ground in this field, trying to stand perfectly still. And she's like, please be still. Please be still. Please be still. It's very tense, and it's also a little steamy, but it's really tense. And eventually she's like, what the fuck are you doing here? Was it not enough? You need to outbest me here too. And he's just kind of coy with it. And he doesn't care. He does not care about being a war correspondent. He even admits like a little bit later, like he doesn't care about writing for the war, which like fair at that point. Like it's, you know, it's not something everyone wants to volunteer for. And he's like, I just did this to be with you. And that's like his inner turmoil. But he decides like it's best to tell her in person who I am, and that I'm Carver. So we get like some cheeky just scenes of, you know, them, you know, hanging out together. And it's really cute. And Iris is actually struggling with the fact that like she has some feelings for Roman, but she thinks that she's falling in love with Carver. And so she'll have like sparks with Roman, and then she'll remember Carver, and she's like physically like distancing herself from Roman at times. It's cute. They end up going like running every morning to this hill, because he's a runner. He's a track star. He was a track star. And so he's like kind of training her on like how to run and like, you know, endurance building and all that jazz. And it's cute. They watch the sunrise together. I like it. It's fun. At some point, one of the captains, I think I started saying this earlier and then just dropped it. At some point, one of the captains comes with a bunch of injured and then is like, you got war correspondents, Marisol? I can take one of them. And Addie's like, me. And she goes to the front. I believe this is before Roman comes. Yeah, it's before Roman comes. So my bad. But a week passes. Addie's back. And she's like, damn. And doesn't talk about it. Again, fair. God knows what you saw. Gods know what you saw. Literally. So sometime after Roman comes, the captain, he comes back. And he's like, okay, I can take one of your war correspondents. And Iris is like, my turn. And Roman is like, no, me. And basically the dude's just like, it's gotta be one of you. And he's like, I'll ride on the side step. I'll ride on the side of the fucking car. Like, we're going together, apparently. And they're both separately, just like internally, like, I don't want him to go. I want him to be safe. And then he's like, I don't want her to go. I want her to be safe. But at the very least, I'll go with her. It's cute. This scene is actually another one of those moments where it's like a flashback, but it's not clear. Like, all of a sudden, we have, like, you know, Iris talking about how she's sitting on Roman's lap in the car, and I was like, didn't he volunteer to ride on the side step? Like, and like he was said that like it was fine. So I was like confused. And then we get like a mini flashback, if you will, to when he was riding on the side step for like an hour, and like they were hitting potholes and it was very dangerous. And then she was like, how much longer until we get to the front? And he was like, 3 hours. And she was like, he can't just be out there like for 3 hours hanging off the side of a fucking truck. So she's like, if you want, I can, like, you can, and if you don't mind me sitting like on your lap. And he's like, done, deal, done. It's like really funny. And I thought it was kind of cute and like a little like, ooh. Anyway. And it was one of those moments where it's like, why didn't you just start off that scene with him riding on the side step, and then why was it like a glimpse like a 30 minutes into the future. Confusing. It was confusing. I don't know why it was done that way. Anyway, they make it to the front. They meet the Sycamore platoon sergeant, lieutenant. I don't know. And they're like, okay, this is how it's gonna work. We're gonna do like rotations in the trenches. Y'all are gonna be here for a week. Like, there you go. And we get a lot of like dark war shit. Forgot to mention, Carver had sent Iris a letter right before they left. And Roman kept, like, he was trying to, like, actively stop her from reading the letter because he was like, she does not need to know what's in that letter right before we go to the front and we're trapped together. Like, she does not need to know that. She does not need to read that. And so, she tried to read it twice during, that time. And he stopped her both times, so she only made it like a third of the way the first time, like 2/3 of the way the second time, because he knew what she was reading, and he was like, she can't read that. Turns out that is the letter when he professes his love. Still is Carver, though. He still has not told her that Carver is Roman, Roman is Carver, he is he. It's fine. And he had also taken, like, a bunch of her letters, maybe all of them, with him in his little leather satchel bag, to the front, to, like, read and keep him company and, like, cute. And at some point towards, like, the end of their stay, there's, like, bad stuff happening in the front where, like, they are literally getting ambushed in the trenches that they are in. And there's, like, bombs, and it's bad, and, there's, like, grenades, and at one point, Roman sees, like, a grenade, like, fly in, and, like, picks her up, turns her around, so that he would take the brunt of whatever happened, but they start running. It was cute, and, like, he's like, I just don't want her to die. If she dies, that's it for me. I just want to make sure she is safe, she is okay. And at some point, there is a blast, and they kind of get separated through, like, this fog, and she finally finds him. She's like, Roman, Roman, Roman. And that's when she realizes, like, she's like, I want a life with him. He can't die. I want a life with him. I love him. Like, that kind of thing. And he's dazed. He's just, like, kind of seeing stars, like, eyes glossed over. He's not making a lot of sense. He's got, like, some nasty, like, shrapnel blast wounds on his leg. I forget if it's his right or his left leg, but one of his legs. And he can't really walk. He's very injured. And he just keeps going, my satchel, my satchel, my satchel. And she's like, I'll get your fucking satchel later. I need to get you help. And so he gets taken on one of the trucks with all the injured. And she ends up trying to help bring in injured people to the truck for a while. And she finally finds his satchel, and she's like, I need this. Like, I think he's gonna die, but, like, I have to believe that he's okay. I have to believe that he made it onto the truck. He's going to be fine. She ends up finally finding him back in Avalon Bluff after a car ride. Oh, I will say, on the truck ride back, the Sycamore, like, platoon leader was, like, gravely injured, like, holding in his guts, basically, and he was like, I didn't even want to, like, be in charge. We were a city or a town, like, close to the front, and we decided that we would fight to protect our town, and, like, we're just a bunch of people from one town, and, like, they're all dead now. I'm the last one alive. And then he dies on the truck ride over. Really sad, really dark. I didn't expect that, really. I again, like, it was hard for me to gauge how dark this book would be, like, how far they'd go, because it is YA. It doesn't just dip its toes in there. It's, like, thigh deep. Like, it's up to their waist in like, the darkness and, like, the kind of thing. Anyway, we make it back to Avalon Bluff. Roman's in surgery. He's unconscious. She's there by his side, just like holding his hand, hoping he wakes up. He doesn't wake up, which is fine. She goes back and she opens up his satchel and finds all her letters. And she's like, he's Carver. This son of a bitch is Carver. And she takes all of her letters, which are his now, technically. And he's awake and she's like, you lied. You played me. Was this even real to you? And it was, there is some like tension because it's understandable. Like, I know how she would feel, like it, or I get how she would feel that, you know, he played her and it was all just like a game to him and that kind of thing. But they end up sharing a very steamy kiss. And then like a nurse comes in and she's like, I'm going to take away your visitor hours if you keep snogging. Oh, this book is very British, which is really funny because I'm pretty sure Rebecca Ross was born in Georgia. This book is real British. It was really funny to read because I was just like, I didn't have them with British accents in my mind, even though it was pretty clear from the beginning, at least in my opinion, that it was British. But I just, reading and having someone's like British accent, like it just took me longer to read if I was reading them in my head with a British accent, if that makes sense. So at times they were British in my head, at times they weren't, but this book is, they use a lot of British slang, British terms. I don't know why I'm laughing, it's just funny to me. So anyway, the nurse comes in and she's like, you can't be kissing. And Iris is like, don't worry, it won't happen again. It's really dramatic. And then she leaves, and then Addie and Marisol are like, go and see him, please. And she's just like, no. And eventually, like, he comes back and they figure their shit out and they want to be together and they actually want to get married. And it's really sweet and really cute. And they end up, oh, there's something I totally missed, which is really funny to me because I was so excited when I was reading it. Marisol has a wife. She's gay. Love that. Love the lesbian representation. Just any queer representation in books I find really nice. And it's also something like extra nice that it's a Hispanic woman, or like an implied Hispanic woman. And it's, I don't know, it made me so happy. I was like, yay! Because we love representation in books. It's wonderful. It makes, I don't know, I find it really heartwarming. I know a lot of people also do. So there is some representation in this book. It doesn't have queer main characters, but there is some representation and it's cute. So that's nice. It's nice. It's a win. I'm taking it. I like it. It's cute. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So they decide they want to get married, and they're like, okay, we're getting married tonight, tomorrow, whatever day it was. Turns out that that's the day that they hear the intermittent sirens and they need to evacuate. And Marisol's wife was actually fighting for Enva, and she comes barreling in and she's like, where's my wife? It was really, I'm sorry, my reenactment was funny. The actual scene wasn't particularly funny. And Iris was like, she's at the infirmary, are you Keegan? And she was like, yeah, where's my wife? Like, running throughout, she's like, we gotta go, I gotta get her out, it's time, like, we can't hold the front, like, we're receding, and we need to, like, evacuate the town. Anyone who wants to stay can fight or has to fight. Like, this is gonna be the new front, this is gonna be, like, we're receding kind of thing. And so we have, like, basically the entire day. Like, the entire day is, like, really drawn out in this book because there's a lot that happens. This is their last day of normalcy. And, at some point, Iris is also, like, writing to a bunch of people trying to figure out where her brother is. And, like, he got, like, moved around and to a different thing. Like, he got injured at one point, and then, like, his whole section died while he was injured. And so he got moved to, like, an auxiliary unit. And that, like, you know, you didn't receive news of this because the captain died in the process, but that's all the information we can give you, and that happened a couple times. So she realizes that there's a good chance that her brother will be coming to, there is a chance, at least, that her brother will be coming to Avalon Bluff. And she wants to see him. She wants to, because that's her last bit of family. And so she tells Roman, she's like, you're still injured, but I need to see my brother. It's my brother. And he's like, I'm staying with you no matter what. We're better when we're together. I think that's a recurring thing, is let's stick together. It will be okay if we're together, and it's cute. It never fucking happens, unfortunately. But so they decide to stay. They decide to stay and help in whatever way they can, even though Dacre's coming. And throughout the day, they just have a bunch of it's a little bucket list, if you will. Not really as grim as a bucket list, but just a bunch of things that they need to get done. And one of them is Keegan ends up showing Addie and Iris how to drive a truck. And Keegan's like, no matter what happens, Iris, you get your man, and Addie, you get my wife, and you leave. You go somewhere that it's safe. You go to the east, leave, get her to safety. No matter what happens, please protect my wife. Very cute, very sweet. And they were just like, yes, of course, yes. No worries, of course, we understand. And that night, my girl Iris be a little dense, I'm not gonna lie. Because she comes back from the infirmary or something, and Roman's helping cook a fuck ton of food with Marisol, and she's like, did you shower? And he was like, girl, come on, 2 and 2, what's it equal? And Addie's Marisol's like, Addie, can you help Iris with that thing upstairs? And Addie's like, all right, come on, let's go. Come on, let's go upstairs. And Addie's like, shower, please. Again, it's so obvious what's going to happen because y'all talked about marriage. Y'all talked about wanting to get married right then and there. And then she's like, yeah, my shit's dirty. I got blood, dirt, all up in my fucking nails. I'm gonna take my time showering. And so she does, and then Addie comes and she braids her hair and gives her a flower crown, and she's like, Addie, what is happening? Girl, there are moments in this book where Iris pisses me off because she just doesn't see the future. Just have intuition, just have common sense, please. It's all I'm asking, it's all I'm begging of you. It's fine. Eventually, they get, put out into, the garden. There's, a little, it's a wedding. It's her and Roman's wedding. They get married as the sun is setting. It's really cute. It's really sweet. They end up having a dinner with a bunch of soldiers that come, and it's this one big thing, and then they share a bed, their marital bed, and I think at one point before they got married, Iris was like, wait, I'm a virgin, which what's the big deal? Nothing wrong with that. It's, I don't know why she almost made it a big deal. She didn't really make it a big deal, but she was like, oh my god, wait, I'm a virgin. Girl, nothing wrong with that. There's no issue there. And Rowan was like, me too, it's fine. I don't care. Which, slay, king behavior. Thank you for not making a big deal of that. So they have a moment, they have their night, but all the candles need to go out. They do have electricity, but they don't use it because it's just easier with candles when there's Ethrals or hounds coming. And so Keegan ordered a town-wide blackout, no lights, and so they were like, okay. So they get together in the dark, and it's not explicit, because again, it's explicit enough, I guess. I definitely probably wouldn't recommend this book to anyone under the age of 16, I guess. It's darker, it's got some adult themes, and I just don't think it'd be super age appropriate for anyone under the age of 16. So just note that. It's not like, very explicit, it's not an explicit sex scene, but it is like descriptive enough, if that makes sense. They wake up the next day and they see each other naked, and then he kind of goes, "You think we have time?" And she's like, "Probably not," which is really funny. Honestly, there's something really funny about that. I forgot to mention the previous day when they were getting all their shit done before the wedding. Marisol had made dash packs, I guess, like, for when you're on the go, you gotta go. She had made 4, one for Marisol, one for Iris, one for Addie, and one for Roman when he showed up. And so Rowan was like gathering them when like the initial like stuff's happening, alarm happened, and he and Iris left at some point to go to the infirmary, I think, to go and like see and find, like, help Keegan find Marisol. And when they came back, there was like muddy footprints from the garden out into like the main area, and 2 of the dash packs were missing. That was my clue that would be important. It was just one of those things that, like, it's not a very big book. It's like, I think around 350 pages. It's not super big. So like any details we get, I'm assuming are important. So as soon as that happened, I was like, that's going to be a huge plot point because we're getting towards the end of this book. Like, that is going to be a big clue. So I like tucked that in the back of my mind. I was like, that's going to be important. So also, Roman, when, Iris had noticed that he had showered, he had mentioned, like, I only have 1 jumpsuit. Someone stole mine. Like, and again, like, huge clue. As soon as I found that out, I was like, Forrest is here and he stole that ship for some reason. I don't know why, but he stole that ship for some reason. And so, anyway, back to where I was. They wake up. They're like, okay, it's, wartime. And we gotta go. We gotta get shit going. And there is a bombing attack by Ethereals. And instead of, like, actual bombs, they drop, like, gas bombs. Like, I am skipping some stuff a little bit. But they drop gas bombs, like this green gas, and it's implied, at least it was pretty obvious to me at that point, that is what the scientist daughter that Roman was betrothed to was working on, because, like, his family's, like, rich, by the way, but it's, like, new money, like, a couple generations old from, like, making the railways or some shit. And he was betrothed to, like, a scientist and, like, a scientist's daughter. And he was like, why a scientist? Because they were making shit for Dacre. It was, brought up earlier in the book. And so it is clear to me, at least, that this is what they were working on. It was gas. And her and Roman get separated because it's so hard for this girl to just fucking stay with him for some reason. I don't know. It was very frustrating to read. Like, it's not bad. It's just frustrating to read because it's like, no, it's like you're screaming at the TV, kind of. It's just one of those things. Again, not bad, just frustrating. Like, for the reader, not in a negative way. Eventually, again, Roman's got a bad leg. It's like, and it got worse with the sex that they had the night before, and like running around and helping prepare things, like not actually running, but so she's trying to get out of the gas and she's like freaking out, and then she sees like the jumpsuit, the war correspondent jumpsuit, and there's a gas mask, and she's like, oh my god, Roman, or she calls him Kit. I don't care for it. I wish she'd call him like Roman or Carver more often. Like she calls him Roman whenever she's like wants to get his attention like Roman. And I like that. I think that's cute. I just wish she didn't call him Kit. Anyway, she's like, Kit, oh my god, it's you. And he's like, come on, we gotta go. And she's like, his grip's tight. His grip's really tight. It actually hurts, but I get it. He just wants to get us away. And then he was just like, come on, we gotta keep moving. She's like, shouldn't we help them? Shouldn't we help these people? Shouldn't we give them our gas mask? And he's like, no, come on. And he's like very forceful, and like it goes on a little longer, and eventually she like stops and she turns around and she sees Roman struggling to catch up to her. Like his leg is obviously like fucked up at this point. It's like the gas fucked him up, like he couldn't breathe, like it's bad. And she's like, Roman, she's like, who the fuck are you? Because, you know, turning around to the gas mask person. And he's like, come on, little flower. And that's what her brother Forrest called her. That was no surprise to me that this was Forrest. I was like, okay, it's clear that he's a deserter. Like, because he stole supplies, he stole the jumpsuit, like, he's a deserter. He is either actively deserting or he did desert. So she's struggling to try and get Roman. She's like, come on, can't we at least bring him? Please. Like, that's my husband. Like, I love him. And he's like, there's no time. Like, there's no time. And basically he grabs her at the back of the neck, which was like difficult to read. Because it's like, it's intense. It's an intense scene, at least for me. It wasn't triggering per se, but it was very hard to read. And just yoinks her and is like, come on. And she actually couldn't breathe at that point. She's like, my brother's gonna kill me. And I was like, there's something off here, because this is not the brother that you've been going on and on and on about. There's something really wrong here. And so they end up camping out in the woods. She wakes up after a little bit and she's like, we have to go find him. And he's like, okay, we can go back and find him, but if he's not there, we're leaving. We're walking back to Oath, basically. And sure enough, they crawl over, like a belly crawling to try and hide, because Dacre did indeed take Avalon Bluff. He took the town. He didn't sack it, which was surprising to them. And I guess we'll find out why in book 2 specifically. But she sees the blood where Roman was, and then a circle, like, drawn in the field. And that's it. There's no trail that he, like no body, nothing. That is it. That's the only evidence. And she's like, something's wrong. I know he's not dead. And Forrest is being super fucking cagey this entire time. It's like days of them traveling and him not talking or being really like cold. And she even says like, this is not my brother. He feels like a stranger, which was like really heartbreaking to read, because like just imagining being in that situation is so terrifying and so upsetting. Like, anyway, we end up finding out that yes, he did indeed desert, and Iris does put that together along their journey. And he only explains when they finally make it back to Oath, back into their apartment. They did take the train at some point, but anyway, he's like, I was injured. Dacre was going to take the town that I was injured in. I was going to die. I was dying. But he healed me, because Dacre has healing powers. But he healed me and used that as the bond that drove me to fight for him. That I was fighting for Dacre. And I didn't want to, and it was awful, and I did horrible things, and you can infer that, like, he was acting cold, possibly because he saw war, but also because something deeper happened. And he was actually wearing the locket that she had when her mother died. Like, when her mother died, she took her locket, and like that was her keepsake for her mom. But she lost it in the trenches with the big blast when Roman got injured. And she couldn't find it. And she saw him when they were like traveling back to Oath have it on, and she was like, you were there. You were fighting for Dacre. And he was like, I can't talk about it. So now she's finally finding out, now that they're back in Oath. And she's just like, oh my god, like, my brother fought for Dacre, like, this isn't the person that I know. No. She decides to go back to her room and read the letter that she left on the floor of her bedroom, the last letter before she went to go be a war correspondent. She was like, I can't read this, it's going to make me want to stay. Now knowing that this is Roman, she opens up the letter, and it says, Iris, it's me, Kit. And my heart fucking broke. Oh my god, my heart fucking broke. That was so hard to read. I was so like sad. I was like, no, because it's one of those things that like if you just did this thing, things would have been so different. But it's a book. It's supposed to be drama. Like I get it, but like, oh my god, I almost started crying when I read that. I was like, you're fucking kidding. Then we have an epilogue from Dacre's POV. And he's talking about how, like, he's a benevolent god. Because he heals people. And he likes to heal the ones whose souls are ice because they're better warriors. But occasionally, he likes a fighter. He likes a fiery soul. I don't know. And he sees Roman dying on the ground. And I guess he has the gift to also be able to tell how long someone's going to be alive when they're on the brink of death, because he's like, this human will expire in 1 minute and 13 seconds or some shit like that. Just like, they use the word expire a lot, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's a British slang thing, but it's very strange to me. But he decides to heal him because he was like, he also noted that Roman had an icy soul, and he was a war correspondent, and Dacre never had one of those before. So he told one of his like lieutenant general things, he's like, that one, I want that one. And they drew a circle because that was the easiest way to portal to the beneath. I forget what they call it. And Roman is going to be healed by Dacre, but at what cost? That is where the book ends. I really enjoyed it. It was good. It was fun. It was, okay, maybe it wasn't fun. It was emotional. It was tense. It was dark, surprisingly. I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it a 4.25 on Storygraphs, 4.25 stars. Really good. I really enjoyed it. I had very little gripes with the book, truth be told, and I just think if you think it's worth your time, if you think it might be up your alley, read it. I think you might enjoy it, even though I probably spoiled a lot of it for you. There are things that I probably forgot, misremembered, didn't touch on, etc., etc., etc. I still think you should read it. Anyway, thank you for coming to this probably egregiously long video. I've been recording for an hour and almost 20 minutes. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining me on this little journey. Divine Rivals. Bye.